Everybody knows that 2 plus 2 equal 4. But what if I tell you that 2 plus 2 is 5, and if you still claim that it's 4, it's incredibly offensive and really hurt my feelings. What if I tell you that 2 plus 2 equal 4 is racist? You can say it's 4 because it's racist. And I can even invent so many theories and build the entire corpus of lies to prove that 2 plus 2 equal 5. And if you disagree with me, you are racist. And I keep pushing this idea constantly upon you through the news, through YouTube videos, through many books, and I'm gonna force this idea till you give up. And you will, because eventually you would say, what's harm? Let him believe that 2 plus 2 is 5 because he doesn't build bridges, he doesn't build planes, he's not architect, he's not engineer. Let him believe. And suddenly I won. And do you think I would stop on that? Do you think if you gave me this victory that 2 plus 2 is 5 just because of my wild claim of racism, do you think I would stop and don't go any further? And then I suddenly realized, yes, I won. 2 plus 2 is 5, and it works. Just accuse people of racism, and suddenly you can actually reshape their worldview. You can actually prevent them from reasoning, and you can actually destroy their common sense. And suddenly, in some sense, I have almost absolute power over those people. Because if I don't like something, I don't have to reason why I don't like something. I just can make wild accusation in racism, and if they decided to check those accusations, I just can call them racist again. And I'm gonna win over and over and over and over. And suddenly, why stop there? I can go even farther. I can even create more wild claims. And suddenly I have a lot of people who seems think the same way. And we build in case after case against reality. And we redefine reasoning. We invented new way of reasoning. And it makes so much sense. And it's even scary because it makes so much sense. Because our perception of reality built firmly into the story we tell to each other and to ourselves. You can actually rearrange the story completely and build the story from different perspectives and start writing your own story and then enforce your own story upon other people. And if they disagree with your story narrative, accuse them on something very wild. And usually people would step back and stay away from you. People don't want to be accused of something they are not. And once you learn this stuff, you can actually do whatever the hell you want. The problem is eventually this ideology would go everywhere. And I'm not only the one person who believes 2 plus 2 is 5. I have a bunch of people. Year by year, suddenly, it's not only me, it's millions of people around the country. And suddenly we have engineers who believe 2 plus 2 is 5. And if people refuse to hire them, we're going to call them racist. And they're going to get the job. And once they got the job, they're going to build a plane based on this mathematics that 2 plus 2 is 5. And suddenly those planes crash. But if you try to investigate this company who built those planes based on this mathematics of 2 plus 2 equal 5, you call them racist and prevent them from investigating those companies. And then you have people who try to build bridges who believe 2 plus 2 is 5, and you have to hire them because otherwise it looks like discrimination. And you can hear accusation in racism even before this accusation start. And you decide to hire those people, and they build those bridges, and those bridges collapse. There's so many people died as the result, but you don't care because you don't assume responsibility. You live in your own worldview, and you can justify everything by calling everything racism. Isn't it the point? Because if you call mathematics racist, it means you achieve such a level beyond which there's no way to take you down. There's no way to take down your reasoning, because for simple thing, you don't have reasoning at all. You reason your way out of your own reasoning, and there's no common sense. And you absolutely hide yourself inside ridiculous idea where everything you disagree with is racist. And that's how people start lies. That's how tyranny starts. Convictions makes us blind if they're wrong conviction. And how you can see wrong convictions? It's convictions that you cannot defend. And if you cannot defend, you become aggressive, you become intimidating. You scream your lies. But the truth you say. Why? Because you respect truth and you don't respect lies. That's why you scream lies aggressively into people's faces. But you tell the truth with respect, because you respect the truth. You respect yourself, since you are the carrier of the truth. Tyranny doesn't start with dictators. I think in some sense, dictators have this feeling of lies floating around them. They can capture the entire nation just to play on those lies. Millions of citizens build walls from those lies as bricks, and build these walls around themselves, create their own personal tiny prisons where they hide from the potential truth. The problem is when you believe in lies, or you force yourself to believe in lies, the truth is still there, and it's create cognitive dissonance within you. You can't force yourself, you can't convince yourself to believe that 2 + 2 is 5, and the one who believes it's 4 are racist. You can't convince yourself. The problem is it's still gonna be there, and you can subdue it, you can submit it, but it's still there, and it's create cognitive dissonance, absolute disharmony. That's why people incredibly neurotic, the ones who propagate lies. That's why they scream about lies. You don't scream about truth. And that's why it's a conspiracy of the nation, of people, of citizens, of millions of people. They create those lies, and they build the entire life, internal and external, from those lies. And nothing works in countries like this. Competency is getting demonized, while lies getting amplified. You lie about everything, about yourself, about other people, about everything. While if somebody's saying the truth, or if somebody is competent and able to take responsibility, this person must be demonized. It's all about feelings. It's all about emotions. You try to build your life on emotions, on feelings. The problem with this idea, your feelings are changeable from day to day, from hour to hour, while your logic, your common sense, your reasoning is permanent. Because reasoning is like a tool. It helps you to understand what is real and what is not, what is worthy of your pursuit and what's not. While feelings, you can rely on your feelings. You cannot. It's too feeble, too uncertain. That's why people who completely drown in their own feelings, they feel so incompetent with their own lives, because they don't trust their own selves. And if you don't trust your own self, how you can do something useful with your life or with the lives of others? But that's what I see more and more. You can convince people by appealing to their feelings into something ridiculous, into something brutal and vile. Envy comes from feelings. And you have to take responsibility, but how you can take responsibility? You cannot take responsibility through feelings. You can only take responsibility by reasoning why you have to take responsibility. I like science. Science helps us to determine that 2 plus 2 is 4. But the problem is how you can prove scientifically that murder is bad. How you can prove scientifically what is good and what is bad. My entire point is we have to be very careful with our feelings. We have to be very careful. We have to learn to reason. And we have to learn to reason by learning history and what happened before. It's really easy to become overconfident, disregard history, disregard great works of art, and stop learning, stop exploring, stop debating ideas. It's so easy to believe in your own superiority based on your feelings and not on your knowledge. That eventually the structure would collapse upon your head, since in some sense, if you build your life on feelings, you build your science on 2 plus 2 equal 5. That's why I like debate. That's why I believe that people who scream, you cannot trust people who scream. Because if you aggressively defend your ideas, it means something wrong with your ideas, and deep inside you understand that something is wrong. You cannot explain it yet. And maybe you don't want to explain this. Maybe you want to keep forcing other people into faith of your ideas of life. And when you force other people, when you're conquering other people into your ideas of life, those ideas of life are wrong. You have to convince people by debating. And you have to debate other people's ideas, not other people. And 2 plus 2 equal 5, unfortunately, is reality. And always will be reality. There are going to be always people who find the way to implement this lie into reality and to build the entire body of corpus on those lies, and try to force other people into believing. And of course, they will find a lot of other people who would believe, just avoid accusation and something they're not, racism or many other things. My point is, we have to learn to speak the truth. We have to practice freedom of speech. Without freedom of speech, truth is impossible. Without freedom of speech, we're under control of the liars, because liars only the one who scream the louder. Liars only the one who sometimes overtly confident in their lies. And then you start doubting your common sense, then you start doubting your reason, and maybe I'm wrong. They're so confident, they're so loud, they're so obnoxious, maybe they know something I don't. But the problem is, truth is calm. Truth is peaceful, and you still have to learn to defend truth. Otherwise, you build your life on the lies of tyranny, and when you do, the way back is incredibly hard and complicated. My entire point is, don't be so sure that people know the truth, that your neighbor knows the truth, because if you're afraid to say the truth yourself, how do you know that your neighbors aren't have the same fear? And if you have a bunch of people around you with the same fear and everyone is silent around you, then maybe it's too late. Maybe we don't have any more freedom of speech and just live already under tyranny of lies that we refuse to acknowledge.